Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Canadian Football Central, CFL content for the fans, by the fans, and we have our review here of Week 3 of CFL, of the CFL action, and my goodness, Rick, for, I think it, for the second or third straight week, neither of us got what we wanted. Both of our teams, neither of them getting it done. My goodness, our Bombers and Ticats just not able to get themselves in the win column so far. This is being recorded on Sunday night, only a few hours after the Hamilton and Saskatchewan game. But we're going to go through all the games in order, and we're going to start with the Thursday game. Does that sound good, Rick?
With the Thursday game? Let's go.
All right, perfect. So on Thursday, the Montreal Alouettes defeated the Ottawa Redblacks by a score of 47-21. So
I mean, I wouldn't really say it was more of a mauling.
Yeah, no, this was brutal. This was brutal. Ottawa just really was not able to get much. They got a little bit of offense in that second half of the game, but they got absolutely nothing in the first half except punches right into the mouth. Seriously, Ottawa. If I'm the Red Blacks, this is a pretty disappointing game after being able to kind of get a really hot start with a win against the Bombers. Obviously, the Bombers have really come out cold. But a win against Winnipeg, when Winnipeg had been so dominant for these past few years, it's got to feel good, especially with Drew Brown getting that victory against his former team, hopefully able to then kind of put that against the Alouettes, who are probably looking to be, at least at this point in time, it looks like they're probably the strongest team in the league. I know that Saskatchewan would definitely have some arguments with me, but they definitely do look good as well. But man, Montreal, they just ran over. They just ran over. I mean, if we're talking Cody Fajardo just alone, almost 400 yards.
It was a team mugging.
393 yards for Cody Fajardo, 11.2 yards per 11.2 yards on the average, with 28 completions on 35 attempts, 3 touchdowns, and no interceptions. Ouch. Like, if you're Ottawa, you felt every bit of that. My goodness. On the receiving core, the receiving core of this game was just incredible, seriously, for Montreal. Julian Grant, 9 receptions, 139 yards. Tyson Philpott, 7 receptions, 127 yards, 1 touchdown. And then White Jr. got himself 61 yards on 4 receptions, but he got 2 touchdowns. Yep.
So, just to note, the score up is incorrect because Philpott had 150 yards.
Oh, whoops.
And Julian Grant got 116 yards.
Is that so? I see. Well,
but
sometimes
don't forget,
that happens.
Reggie White also has not. Also, Reggie White hasn't played in a year and a half.
Yes, no, that's true. Man,
because he was on the injured list all of last year.
Yeah, and Cote, it looks like he went 4 for 4 with his longest at 41 yards on the kicking side of things for Montreal.
Not only that, but Tyrese Beverette, where did that guy come from?
Yeah, seriously, 1 sack, 1 interception, 6 tackles that game, I believe, right? Is that correct?
1 fumble recovery, 1 fumble, forced fumble, and 13 tackles for loss.
Yeah, no, seriously, just, man, yeah, seriously, that honestly, you pretty much summed it up. Where did this guy come from? Because he was all over at this game, so really good defensive effort, looks like. And then Adeyemi Berglund got himself a sack along with Johnson, and it looks like it was 3 sacks there for the Alouettes. Redbacks defense not able to replicate that defensive success against Alouettes. Montreal Alouettes, if it wasn't evident by the score, they weren't able to get that defensive push back. It just this was all Montreal from start to finish.
Did you also mention the 143 yards that Justin Hardy had too?
No, I didn't. Hardy, 143 yards on 7 receptions. Good Good performance with him. Drew Brown would go 21 for 35 with 284 yards, 1 interception, no touchdowns. So probably not the most ideal game that you would look for. One thing that I have been noticing is that it looks like Ottawa has been using Braylon Addison even more and more in the running game, which is a bit of an interesting move. He got two rushes, he got himself 5 yards, so really not much there. And it looks like even Hardy was able to get get a little bit of rushing yards, which I believe he got 16 yards. Is that correct on his one rush?
For Justin Hardy, yes. And if I'm not mistaken,
just some strange.
I'm pretty sure Devontae Dedmon had a return.
Yes. For
a touchdown as well.
I don't have that on here, but I'll take your word for it. Yours is probably accurate.
I think he did. I'm not quoting it, but I'm pretty sure he did.
No, but yeah, I mean, if we're looking at Ottawa was able to do absolutely nothing in the first half of this game offensively. In the second half, they were able to finally get something going, but it just wasn't even close to enough. Now, I know that Rick would probably love to talk about how this Tommy Condell offense was the first half of this game.
It's not even that. It's because even though everyone's gonna say, "Oh well, Ottawa played Montreal. It's Montreal's defense." Not really, because you guys barely beat Winnipeg.
Yeah, and that was arguably a very bad Winnipeg performance. Winnipeg really hasn't put up that much of great performances, but we'll get into this week, because this week is a little bit different in that regard. But is there anything else?
Apparently, I take that back. He did not have a return. I thought he
did not. Yeah, no, I didn't see it on my end, but I know that sometimes the stuff on my end is a little bit missing compared to yours. That's why I wanted to kind of throw that over to you. But is there anything else we got to talk about the Alouettes Red Blacks game? I mean, it was just a beatdown from start to finish. That's what it was. But
nope.
If we go on to the Friday game, the BC Lions defeat the Winnipeg Blue Bombers in a tight game by a score of 26-24. Now, there's a lot of people online that are talking about that right at the end of the first half in the second quarter, how the Bombers potentially could have gotten the field goal if it wasn't for an error on the timekeeper's part by starting the clock late. Now, there are two problems I have with this. Number one, that's not true in the sense of that is that we shouldn't have to rely on a timekeeper making an error in order for us to get a field goal. Secondly, doesn't matter if the Bombers get that field goal, because you can think, oh yeah, then the Bombers would get 3 points, 27-26 Bomber victory. No. You forget that BC took a knee to kill out the clock on the 1 yard line. They would have at bare minimum gotten a field goal from 8 yards out, or they would have just run it in for the touchdown at the end of the game. The only reason BC doesn't run that in is because they don't have to, and they can just kill the clock. And so that's what they did. So just an important thing to mention that I feel like so many people are missing the mark on. So I wanted to get that out of the way. Does that make sense, Rick?
Yeah, just before I give you the floor, because I know you want to talk about Winnipeg, but there's one thing I want to bring the the monkey out of the room.
Yep.
Alexander Hollands, 215 receiving yards.
Yeah, he killed us. Touchdowns. Yeah, Alexander Hollands killed us. 215 receiving yards, 2 touchdowns, and Vernon Adams Jr., 398 yards, nearly 400 yards from Vernon Adams Jr., 2 touchdowns, no interceptions. So a just absolutely stellar performance by Vernon Adams Jr. If we're looking at Standback, he was able to put up 83 yards. So definitely something good in that regard. And, man, it really sucked to watch Pete Robertson get a sack on Zach Collaros. I know that Pete Robertson definitely loved that. And us Bomber fans really don't like Pete Robertson after we saw him headbutt our boy last year in the Labor Day Classic. But, man, it's just this loss stings. And if we're looking at it, like, if we look at the Bomber side of things, like, now, here's the thing. As a Bomber fan, it sucks that we lost. It does. 0-3 start. I think it's the worst since, like, 2011, something like that, which, again, keep in mind, 2011, BC Lions, 0-5, won the Grey Cup. They were 0-5 to start that year. However, there were positive things for Winnipeg to come out of this game if you compare it to games 1 and 2. Games 1 and 2, there was no running game. There was no passing game. There was almost no offense. Hardly anything. In this game, I thought that our completion percentage was better than it was in our prior games, even if he only got 247 yards, which is not even that bad. Collaros didn't throw any picks. That was nice. Even though we did, there were times that we screwed up. Overall, I felt like I thought Oliveira had a better game than he did. It felt like there were times where he really got into form. I thought that this was a pretty strong game for Nick Dembski as well as Drew Wolodarski. But at the end of the day, we just the problem was that when it came to these standard, 10, 20-yard plays, our short and mid coverage was good. The Bombers lose here on their deep coverage. BC was able to make those big throws, and it was Alexander Hollins who really was a part of that mostly, where the Bombers would do a pretty good job on like first down, second down, make them punt a few times, but then occasionally BC would look to go all the way down the field, and there were 2 times when they really hit that and got it done, and both of them were for Alexander Hollins, and he got touchdowns on both of those. And the thing is that you just can't give that up. Bombers lost all coverage on Alexander Hollins, and he made Winnipeg pay. And it was stuff like that, in my opinion, made the difference for the Bombers. Because if we're looking here, Winnipeg put up a big fat donut in the second quarter. Not good. BC is able to consistently get some points throughout the game. But one thing that did hurt, at least in the first quarter here for Winnipeg, was that Winnipeg wasn't able to get a single stop in this first quarter. Like, I mean, if we're looking here, BC first gets a touchdown to start the game. Then they get themselves a field goal. And then I think they finally make them punt near the end of the first quarter. But giving up 10 points within the first 10 minutes of the game is not ideal. It's not a good look. And it just kind of put us in a position where it felt like every time BC got points, we were just trying to catch up and just trying to catch up and just trying to catch up. And it's hard to win a game like that. It's hard. And even though the Bombers were able to make this real damn close and get really close to that victory, it just wasn't enough. I do think I was pleased to see that Buck Pierce finally made some changes to the playbook. Not necessarily in terms of adding new plays. I think I did actually see a new play, though, as well. I couldn't remember exactly what it was, but I remember I saw it, and I'm like, I don't think he usually does that.
I know what it was.
You know what it was? What was it? Because I noticed something.
Isn't that when Streveler was at quarterback and you seen Zach Collaros out playing as a wide receiver?
I think you're mixing it up. I think you're mixing up when Streveler was thrown to from Zach Collaros.
No, but there was a time where Zach Collaros was out at the wide receiver and Streveler went and ran for it.
I didn't even notice that. I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty sure the play was. It's funny. It was almost like a jet sweep, but instead of having him run wide, he was running down in motion before the snap. And then when he took that handoff, he ran straight through. I think it was like A or B gap and ran straight up field as opposed for going out wide to try to kind of trick that DN to going a bit wide and opening that hole within the offensive line. And they were able to do something with that. So I was happy to see at least some adjustments from Buck Pierce, just because he's being so negligent to make those.
You know what would have been interesting is had Streveler took the snap, pass it to the left or to the right to Collaros, and then Collaros
then guns it down,
and then throws it down the field.
That honestly, Buck Pierce, make it happen. I'd love to see it, even if it doesn't work. You know what? I'd be cool with that. I think it would be really cool, the idea of having Streveler even play some running back with Collaros at quarterback, just because I think that you could really keep that defense guessing what the hell we're gonna do. Just because when you got 2 quarterbacks in the field, who knows what the hell could happen. I do like sometimes how when the Bombers got that first down in short yardage, that they would keep Oliveira on the Strevler, on the next play, even with Oliveira. And then you would, because the thing is that with Buck Pierce, first down, if Strevler's on the field, it's a run on first down if he's on the field then. Now the question is Strevler running it, or is he handing it off for Oliveira? And so typically they would split, and one would run one way and one would run the next. And sometimes it'd be a fake handoff, sometimes it would be a legit handoff. And so we were able to finally get some success with that, just because whenever Oliveira's on the field and it's a running play, it's pretty predictable that he's getting the damn ball. So having at least some level of deception in there sometimes throughout the game, I'm pleased with the amount that we're swapping them in and keeping Strevler in for some plays and not for all plays, and not just having him as a short yardage quarterback, just because there are more things he's capable of. And I think they showcase some of that. He's able to get 24 yards on 10 rushes. Now, one thing that is important to keep in mind is at least half of those are short yardage, where he's only supposed to get 1 or 2 yards. So overall, I was pretty pleased with Strevler. And I mean, 3 touchdowns for Chris Strevler was absolute money in the short yardage. It just really, it sucks that he got 3 touchdowns for us. And we still weren't able to win the game. So
I mean, it could have been a lot worse had he have not got some of those short yards.
Oh, certainly. And at the end of the day, even though the Bombers don't win this, BC is one of those teams that really, really should be one of the best teams in this league, with all the talent they have. So, like, with that all being said, losing by 2 points and losing what was a very, very close game, I'm okay with that. I can accept that. Unlike the first 2 losses, even though, like, Montreal's a great team, but Winnipeg didn't put up any performance against them. Then with Ottawa, an embarrassing loss right there. But with BC, I can accept that because I can see at least finally some progression. I can see the running game finally getting some traction. I can see the throwing game getting some traction. I can see Nick Dembski emerging from hibernation. So it was nice to see us at least be able to do something. And I just, you know what? If they stick to the things that made them successful at parts of that game, they should finally be able to put together a win at some point soon. Although I will say, less punts. Try to get into kicking range more often, because Castillo only had to kick 1 field goal. And Chris Smith on the return, much better than Myron Mitchell. Very, very happy that we have Chris Smith back. Obviously, those probably remember him from the preseason, getting that punt return touchdown for Winnipeg against the Calgary Stampeders. But Chris Smith, definitely the clear-cut choice as a returner over Myron Mitchell. That's all I got on this game. Is there anything else you got? I just want to get on to the next one, to be honest.
Not really.
Alrighty, so moving on to the next game of the week, we have the Saturday game, which I was not able to watch this, fortunately.
I will say this was probably the best game of the week.
Yeah.
Because one team would go down and score, then the other team would go down and score.
It was just constant
one
back
team
and
came
forth.
down and scored. Yeah,
that's
it's
right.
just
And the
like
game he's talking about is the 39-36 victory for the Toronto Argonauts over the Edmonton Elks. A damn close game. And yeah, I mean, from everything I heard, because I wasn't able to watch this game, I've only seen some of the highlights. Man,
it came down to like a 0 on the clock field goal.
Yeah, geez, that's crazy. Although I will say, 4 touchdown passes for McLeod Bethel Thompson, no interceptions. 342 throwing yards. Which, it's funny, that was actually a conversation that I think we had after last game, which is with Bethel Thompson. It looks like he's the pick there in Edmonton, but there were times where it seemed like maybe Trey Ford would finally get a bit of a try, but Bethel Thompson was able to do well. And it's funny because those 4 touchdown passes would kind of be spread around a bit. One for Mitchell, one for Mayala, one for Gittins Jr., and one for Eugene Lewis. Now, one guy that we had talked about who I think really kind of came out of his shell last game and kind of made himself a bit more known on the receiving aspect was Mayala in Edmonton. Was then able to get in this game 72 receiving yards on 5 receptions, got himself a touchdown as well. So another strong performance for him. So might be seeing a bit of an emerging receiver there in Edmonton. So glad to see him doing well. But I'm gonna kind of shoot this over because you watched much more of this, so I'm gonna let you kind of.
And I mean, Cameron Dukes only missed 3 passes. Kadeem Carey had 104 rushing yards.
Yep.
So they got Cameron Dukes threw 2 touchdowns, but then Kadeem Carey, Deontay McMahon, and Cameron Dukes got 3 rushing touchdowns.
Yep.
If you look at the receiving stats, the highest receiver only had 58 yards.
Yeah. Coxie, only 58 yards. Got himself a touchdown, though. Rasheed Bailey, only 1 reception, 21 yards, but was able to get a touchdown on just that. So Rasheed Bailey, it looks like to be honest, looks a bit underutilized there in Toronto for the talent he has. And however, hopefully he gets a bit more throws there from Cameron Dukes, as I mean, from what it shows, like, on that reception he did get, he was complete money and got himself a touchdown.
And you can even see what a difference Javarian Grant makes.
Yeah, Janarian Grant, seriously, on the return, 107 yards on, looks like 4 returns, was able to get an average of 26.8 yards for each return. That's his kickoff return. And then on the punt return, he was able to get 12.4 yards, an average for 62 on 5. Janarian Grant, I mean, we're talking about a top-tier returner in the league. Definitely someone that I miss here in Winnipeg. Although I will say, again, I'm happy with Chris Smith coming in because he's much better than Myra Mitchell. But Janarian Grant is a guy he's gotten multiple. He has gotten multiple return touchdowns over the course of his career. And so I won't be surprised when he eventually gets one in Toronto. If we're looking on kind of the defense side of things, on the Edmonton side, a good game there for Curtis. Got 3 tackles and 2 sacks out of that. And then it looks like Brown got himself a sack, as well as Purifoy with an interception there for the Edmonton Elks. If we're looking on the Argonaut side of things, only 1 sack for them. Looks like Sarensa, I believe, 3 tackles, 1 sack, but 6 sacks for Pierce, Johnson, and Franklin on for the Toronto defense. So just kind of some numbers to throw out for you. 9 tackles for Anderson though on the Elks side of things. Which again, one issue that we had talked about was kind of this Elks defense and kind of the concerns with that. So seeing some guys have some strong performances like that is definitely something that Elks fans will be happy to hear about.
It's going to be interesting come next Friday because you have Toronto's offense against Montreal's defense.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's
probably going to be the game of the week to watch.
Yeah, no, I would not be surprised about that. There's going to be a lot. That's gonna be a really good game next week, and there's going to be 3 other teams that are battling next week for their first win. But I think that's pretty much all we have for this game. 39-36 victory for the Toronto Argonauts in what was, as you said, game of the week, right?
That's what I said.
All right. Well, we'll get into the last game of the week. That was tonight's game. Tonight, as of when we are recording it, where the Saskatchewan Roughriders defeated the Hamilton Tiger Cats by a score of 36-20, where Saskatchewan extends to 3-0 on the season. Hamilton drops to 0-3 on the season. And Saskatchewan in the running for top team in the league currently with the Montreal Alouettes. And the Ticats sitting at the bottom with the Bombers and the Elks sharing that spot. Hamilton, first quarter, third quarter, 2 big fat donuts. Can't win a game. You got 2 big fat donuts
Carter,
on the board.
It's not even that.
Oh, that's one aspect.
I don't know if you watched the full game tonight.
I did not watch the full game. I watched the third and fourth quarter, and I watched portions of the first.
When your returner runs up the field on the first play, fumbles it on our 20 on the very first play of the game. Then Harris comes out, throws 2 plays, and gets a touchdown within 2 minutes.
Yeah. I mean, like, and one thing I will say that we need to talk about in this game, how about that Saskatchewan defense? Seriously, like multiple it looks like, let me see here. Yeah, 3 interceptions with one of them being a pick 6 against Bo Levi Mitchell that they were getting, it looks like mostly in that third quarter. Thurman got an interception. Then it looks like Milligan as well as Fields all got picks. And I believe it was it Thurman's that went for the touchdown?
No,
Or was it Milligan's? Because one of them went for the touchdown. There was at least one of those that was a pick 6. I am trying to.
Yeah, no, it wasn't.
No, that was Marcus Sales, right? Am I missing that here?
Yeah, it was Sales.
Yeah, it was Marcus Sales. Yeah, no, I'm just because I'm looking at here and I'm like, that's not right. I don't remember that. But then if I take a look at the other stat line here, Marcus Sales was able to get that done. But if I'm looking at it here as well, what was I looking for? But I mean, like 36 points against the Ticats here. Harris only throws 177. And AJ Ouellette definitely had a really strong game, was able to get 98 yards on 20 rushes, but definitely was able to get the running game going here. Now, one big concern that the Riders probably are going to have is what about Trevor Harris?
So I have an answer for that.
Yep.
So he was going to go back in, but Corey Mace is like, no, we want you to sit for the rest of the game.
Yep.
Because, I mean, so here's the thing. So they have a bye week next week, but when we were talking about it during our live stream today, if you let him go in and he's not 100%, because I don't know if you've seen the tackle, but it's kind of like his knee did not land the way that it should have. Yep. And he came out with a brace on.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it's one of those things. And it's the opposite. So, you remember last year, was it his leg that he broke last year?
I can't even remember exactly what it was.
So, anyways,
good.
It's whatever leg it was last year, it was the opposite leg this year. And it's like, do you let him go in and risk it?
No, and they were at a point in the game where Saskatchewan as a team was playing so well. Even when Shea Patterson was in, Shea Patterson, he did okay. He didn't really do like a ton, but it was one of those things where the Riders were doing fine. There were no situation where it was do or die. I don't mean to be that guy, but Hamilton just really wasn't getting much going, and just bounces were not going their way. Like, Saskatchewan pretty much had this game at that point. And so what is the benefit of putting Trevor Harris in? Really, not much. And with Trevor Harris, because the thing you got to realize, when a guy's injured, or even if he's like just slightly injured, enough where he can still play, but, injured to a point where he's shaken up, the likelihood that injury goes from a playable injury to a non-playable injury, it has increased significantly. When a guy's not 100%, the likelihood of him getting injured to a point where he's not going to be able to play for a few games down the line, possibly even more than that, is increased. And so with Trevor Harris, it's like as much as I think Shea Patterson is a fine quarterback, I don't think he's the greatest quarterback in the world. I don't think he's terrible by any means. Would I put the entire team on his shoulders to carry them forward? Probably not. So it's one of those things where I think that, having him in this role and, having him get some reps is a good thing. Just again, because, I mean, we're talking about Saskatchewan, who last year there was just plagued with injuries all over the place. So if you can at least give that backup some time when you're not necessarily in a direct worry about them losing the game right then and there, I think generally there's actually a positive that can come out of that. So overall, I think that Corey Mace made the exact right decision.
I'm just looking at all of this. If right now, Shemar Bridges is 5th in receiving yards as a rookie, So there's Hollins with 402, Philpott with 340,
Yep.
McInnes with 289, Dylan Mitchell with 274, and then he has 270. Like, he almost has 300 yards in almost 3 games as a rookie. Like, I haven't even looked at defense yet, but I mean,
Bridges.
I could even see him, depending on who stands out on defense, possibly rookie of the year.
Yeah, no, I mean, at this rate, in a Hamilton team that has just not been able to get that done yet, even though they've had some decent performances in some games, I definitely say that Bridges is one of the standouts. 113 receiving yards on 9 receptions, 1 touchdown tonight. Smith was the other receiver that was able to grab himself a touchdown on 52 receiving yards on 5 receptions, so he was able to do well. James Butler not able to get it going, and even when Hamilton was down low, James Butler tries to get going, although he doesn't even have a chance on that play, as Saskatchewan's D-line just absolutely barrels through to grab him in the backfield. And
not only that, Tim White goes 0 for 6.
Yeah, that's yikes. I mean, we're talking about a guy who I think he was asking for 300,000.
Yeah, I don't know what it is, but they gotta do something with him.
This is not a good slump.
I will also give props out to Jamal Peters, who got his first interception in black and gold tonight.
Oh, there you go. Was it? Yeah, he did, because he had got it right when they were going down the field near the sidelines, right? That was the interception he got. Am I correct?
The other thing is
that right? Like the pick he got was near the sidelines, I think.
Yes.
From memory. Yeah, okay.
The other thing that I'm going to mention is same thing as last year. Penalties.
Oh, yes. You Ticats are very aware of that.
It's not even that. Like, we're 1 yard short of 100 yards. Like, we average, 100 yards per game in penalties? It's like, okay, I can understand, like, offside, no yards, but, like, some of them are just, like, unnecessary roughness and just like stupid penalties tonight.
I think they took a roughing the passer, if I remember.
Oh, Saskatchewan took 2 in a row.
I know Saskatchewan did. I think Hamilton took 1 as well. I could be wrong.
No, I know Hamilton did, but I'm just saying,
I see. Yeah, no. Although one thing also, I do have to mention, a sack from my boy Casey Sales, Bomber legend.
Did you? I don't know if you had seen it. Did you see the hit with, I'm just trying to look up his name, on Saskatchewan?
Are you talking about the one where the knee hits the guy's head?
Yeah, and
ouch!
Sales is just lying
ouch! There. Oh my goodness! You know what? It's just a freak accident. There's nothing intentional or cheap about it.
No, I know, but it would not surprise me if he had. I thought it was a dislocated shoulder because I didn't when I go back and look at it now, I can see hit to the head. I thought it was a dislocated shoulder because it was hitting there, holding his shoulder. He was out cold.
Yeah, he got knee in the head. He got knocked the hell out. Ouch. That looks so damn painful.
They didn't even let him
he's okay.
Walk off the field. They had to carry him off the field. Well, not really carry him, but walk with him off the field. Like, if he doesn't have a concussion, I'm surprised.
Yeah, I don't know. I saw that hit and I was like, ouch.
Also, AJ Ouellette finally got his running game going at 98
yeah,
yards.
This is what I was talking about. He got 98 yards rushing, and finally, because he really didn't do that much against Hamilton last week, even though they were able to get the victory against Hamilton. So definitely, I think a standout performance for him.
So Trevor Harris is going to be back next game, and next game they play in 2 weeks, and it's against Toronto.
That's right. However, I think this is pretty much. Is there anything else that we got for this week's games? I think this is pretty much.
Nope. It will be interesting to see what happens this next week, but at practice. But
so make sure you guys stay tuned as we got a few things coming up on Thursday. Or our next video coming up will be our preview for our Week 4 for week 4 of the CFL schedule. And then coming out on Thursday, we're going to be having our interview with Toronto Argonauts defensive lineman Derek Parrish. So if you guys got any questions for him, make sure you guys leave that in the comment section down below. Just specify saying question for Derek, whatever it is. If you guys have any questions for him, we're excited to have him on. We're going to be recording that on Wednesday, so just keep that in mind. Have your questions in before then or sometime on Wednesday, and that will be posted on Thursday. We're very, very excited to have him on. He's actually excited to come on as well, which is always lovely to have. So yeah, make sure you guys...
because of Brinkman.
Yeah, there we go. We were able to have Brinkman on, and he was absolutely fantastic. So we're keeping the trend of Toronto Argonauts defensive linemen. So make sure you guys come in and, watch that, give it some love, and leave some comments down below for him, as I'm sure he'd love to hear from you guys as well. So I think that's all we got for you guys. So make sure you guys take share. Make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe if you have not already. And we'll see you guys next time.